So I wanted to create a video on how to do the swinging arm animation or get started with it. So what I want to do is do a file, and I'm going to do new. 1024 should be just fine. So it just kind of gives me a blank canvas, and then I'm going to drag in or load in from the desktop the image. And so this will be my layer 1, and you'll see that there's two sets. There's frames 1 through 7 and then 7 through 13, which is also 11, 12. So there's almost like a rest at the end. So what you want to do is I can go ahead and place this kind of central. And I know actually what I want to do is take this and make a selection like so. Do a Control X and then Control V. That will cut and paste this section here. I'm going to change that opacity down to about 50% and pull my other layer back. And so what we're going to do is pull this down so I can see these frames. I can even do a Command T and make it a little larger. So that'll place this here, and then we have this other layer here. So here's layer 1. Command T, make it a little larger. So here, and then we have layer 2 with the 50% opacity, and I can move it around. And what I want to do is just line these center circles up, and then using the scale tool, match the 7 as close as I can. And then that 13 and the 1, that ground line kind of needs to line up. And then drag this out so that wrist. So 13 and 1 and all seem like they should kind of line up. It doesn't have to be exact, but you kind of want to get close. The drawings are going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to drag the circle here to this spot. And what that'll give me is a different place of scaling it, where it'll scale from, which will help even this out just a little bit. So just adjust. Vertical looks pretty good. The 1, the 7, all right, that's close enough for what we're going to be doing here. So I have the overlap of the two sets of frames. Okay, so I'm going to leave layer 2 hidden for the moment. We're just going to start with layer 1, and what I'm going to want to do is using we'll just use the line tool. I'm use the line tool with a shape layer. Stroke, turn that off. Fill, we'll just go with black, and so that I can just drag out something that just looks like a line here. Okay, now what we want to do is I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. What we're going to want to do here is Command T with the transform tool, okay, which will allow us to rotate and scale this piece. So do something like that. That'll kind of give us our arm piece. Gonna make another one here. Command T. And we can scale that up. So now we have something like that, and now we need a hand. So for the hand, create a new layer, and then using this, we'll just use the polygon tool, and I'm just going to come in here and we'll just trace one of these hands. You don't have to create new hands for every single frame. One hand that we just duplicate will be just fine. So I'm just tracing right around the outside. When that circle appears, click, and that'll give us our selection. And then using the paint bucket tool, we'll fill that in. I'll deselect that. I'm actually going to rename layer 3 hand. And then move it down. And then to move into position, Command T. And what I want to do is move that little pointer to where it's at that wrist joint, so that when I rotate, it rotates from this pivot point. So we want to rotate from the wrist joint, and we can move it right into position just like that. In fact, let's use the paint tool and just add a little more finger. There we go. Round that out just a little bit. All right. So, and then some people have actually said, what about the little elbow joint? And you don't have to add one, but if you want to, just use your ellipse tool. Create an ellipse, fill, and then you can just move it into place like that. So now what I'm going to do is take ellipse 1, call that elbow, hand. Shape 2 is going to be forearm, and then shape 1 will be bicep. So now we have all of our parts and pieces, and I'm just going to keep them kind of together. So layer 1, layer 2 is going to be our background. Then we have a bicep, forearm, hand, and elbow. And what I want to do is take all 4 of these layers here, and I'm going to duplicate them, and then I'm going to merge, and then I'm going to call this just 1, or frame. We'll call that frame 1. Frame 1. Okay, and I can hide that or show it depending upon what I want. And then go back to the bicep again, Command T. I'm actually going to drag this to the center point here, and then I can rotate it over. Take the forearm and move it, Command T, rotate this, drag that point out here. Into position. You may want to, if the snaps get in the way, you can disable them by going to View and turn the snap off. I usually leave them on, but if they get annoying, you can turn those off, and you can also use the arrow keys to help adjust as well. All right, so let's move the hand into position. Command T. This, move it over. All right. Not much difference between 1 and 2 on it. And then place the elbow in position. All right, so now take all these again, duplicate the layers, check, merge the layers, check, and we'll call this frame 2, drag it to the top of the stack. Now if I hide these, we'll have frame 1 followed by frame 2. Okay, and we can use the create frame animation. Okay, new frame, frame 2, and just build the animation up that way. So just repeating that process for the following frames will complete the animation. Once it's complete, do the standard thing of file, export, and save for web, and save it as an animated GIF.